Well, good morning, or at least it is where I am right now. Watch people watch this like 7 years later. It's like, is it still morning? It's perpetual morning. Anyway, in this video, we're going to take a look at terms versus factors. And the main difference here is that terms add and factors multiply. In the beginning here, when you first start talking about terms and factors, typically terms will contain factors, but factors usually won't contain terms. That's not always true. When you get into dealing with quadratics or more advanced expressions, then you can run into this idea where the term is actually, or multiple terms are contained within one factor. That's perfectly fine. It's just that when you first start out, it's not usually the way it is. I will certainly be showing you some in this series of videos, though. Terms are added, which means we can also add a negative, which is going to feel like subtraction, but you're still adding a negative, so the term in the case of subtraction will be negative. Just be careful on that one. Factors multiply, they also can be divided, but again, you're multiplying by the reciprocal, so you kind of flip it, that sort of thing. So let's go down and have some examples here. So we want to identify the factors and the terms. I'm going to keep it in the same color scheme. So 3x plus 8, we have two terms here. We have 3x and we have 8. Our factors are 3 and x. You could say that 8 is also a factor, even though it's also a term. Now, because 8 times 1, the 1 is not listed, because 8 times 1 is just 8. You could call it a factor, you could make that argument. Most often, though, if they want you to identify factors, they're going to talk about the terms within the factor. Or the factors within the term, my apologies. Alright, next one here. 2z minus 4, our terms are 2z as one unit, and negative 4. Remember, it's going to feel like subtraction, but you're really adding the opposite. So the sign sticks with the term. The factors here are 2 and z. And then you could say that it's negative 1 and 4 or negative 4. It's up to you. I mean, it's up to you and your instructor and how anal you want to be. Technically, there's a negative 1 times the 4, so negative 1 and 4 are the factors, but I'm not quite that anal. All right. Last one here. We have a negative 8y, and then we have a 9 for the terms. And then for the factors, we're going to have negative 8 and y, and then in the other term is going to be 9. Again, you could say it's 1 and 9, that sort of thing. That's fine. I'm certain that some people in the comments are going to be like, well, 9 is not a term. If I can write it as 1 times 9, technically I guess that makes it a term. I'm sorry, if 9 is not a factor, technically if I can rewrite it as 1 times 9, then it's really a factor. So, again, how anal you're going to be is entirely dependent on what your instructor is wanting. For me, I'll take it either way. I'm pretty easy on it. So that's really it. That's terms versus factors. There's not much else there.